Monday, December 13th, 2021, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So with the Federal Reserve expected to move swiftly to tighten policy, according to some in the mainstream press, like the FT. Article this morning, Fed to pivot to swift action on inflation in face of spiking prices. I would say they don't have a chance of moving swiftly. And by swiftly, I mean really stopping the QE right away, unwinding the balance sheet and raising rates right away. That would completely implode the financial system. But yes, there are people talking about this. Either they're ignorant or either they haven't done their research, they haven't studied history, they haven't seen that once the Fed tried to do that from the beginning of 2016 or end of 2015, it was very gradual. And even then, it ended up in tears by 2019. So the fact that the mainstream economists and institutes, I think it's the Peterson Institute here on this article, and I'm not really going to go through the article. We're seeing now that congressional Democrats, like representatives and senators, are calling for the Fed to tighten. I think that's just political grandstanding for their constituents at home, of course, because people are going to continue to suffer from rising prices. So, with that, how can the Fed get away from having to do what they need to do? Well, you need a crisis. You need something out of left field no one was expecting, or maybe not us, right? But the general public. And that's where some of you will call it conspiracy theory, but I will call it research and history, and that's false flags. And I'm not going to go too much into it, but suffice it to say, prior to the attacks of 9/11, or on the day that there were the attacks, the security apparatus of the U.S. was doing a drill for the exact same kind of attack. Yes, it's a big coincidence. They were doing the same thing here in the UK. There's even a guy who worked in the intelligence industry in the UK, who at the time was a private contractor. They were running a drill on 7/7 for the exact kind of event. So if you watched my live stream last night, I went through this very quickly. And also in the Mike and Mara show, we went through it quickly because this came out late on Thursday. And it's on Reuters, but I haven't seen it covered anywhere else. But I think this is important. Am I saying this is going to happen? No, but it's for us to keep in the back of our minds. So it says, exclusive, IMF, 10 countries simulate cyber attack on global financial system. And you see this picture here. You've got the US and Israel right in the middle, right? They're the ones running it. It seems like their flags are a bit in front. And what's worrying as well, you've got the IMF flag, you got the BIS flag, Bank for International Settlements, and the World Bank Group, and all the major Western countries, of course. So let's go through this article and yes, listen to my opinion. You could decide to take it on or completely ignore it, but at least you'll know that this is going on. It says, Israel on Thursday led a 10-country simulation of a major cyber attack on the global financial system in an attempt to increase cooperation that could help to minimize any potential damage to financial markets and banks. The other thing I would say as well, with all the talk of tightening, right, the Fed is going to turn swiftly. We haven't seen as much leverage in the system forever. Highly leveraged system. So think about that when you think of banks. The simulated war game, as Israel's finance ministry called it, and planned over the past year, evolved over 10 days with sensitive data emerging on the dark web. The simulation also used fake news reports that, in the scenario, caused chaos in global markets and a run on the banks. The simulation, likely caused by what officials called sophisticated players, featured several types of attacks that impacted global foreign exchange and bond markets, liquidity, integrity of data, and transactions between importers and exporters. These events are creating havoc in the financial markets, said a narrator of a film shown to the participants as part of the simulation and seen by Reuters. Israeli government officials said that such threats are possible in the wake of many high-profile cyber attacks on large companies, and that the only way to contain any damage is through global cooperation, since current cybersecurity is not always strong enough. Well, I would say it has to be global because the whole financial system is interconnected. Attackers are 10 steps ahead of the defender. Micah Weiss, financial cyber manager at Israel's finance ministry, told Reuters. Participants in the initiative, called Collective Strength, included treasury officials from Israel, the United States, the United Kingdom, United Arab Emirates, Austria, Switzerland, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and Thailand, as well as representatives from the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and Bank for International Settlements. The narrator of the film in the simulation said governments were under pressure to clarify the impact of the attack, which was paralyzing the global financial system. There you go. It's paralyzing the system. What a great excuse to freeze everything up. The banks are appealing for emergency liquidity. Wow, surprise, surprise. Assistance in a multitude of currencies to put a halt to the chaos as counterparties withdraw their funds and limit access to liquidity, leaving the banks in disarray and ruin, the narrator said. Well, pretty much like last year in March, I would say. The participants discussed multilateral policies to respond to the crisis, including a coordinated bank holiday. There you go, a bank holiday. What would happen to your money during that bank holiday? Well, it's difficult to say, but you wouldn't be able to access it. Debt repayment grace periods, swap repo agreements, and coordinated delinking from major currencies. Rehav Shalom Revivo, head of Israel's financial cyber engagements, said international collaboration between finance ministries and international organizations is key for the resilience of the financial ecosystem. It's strange because you never think of Israel as being important in the world financial system. But, you know, think about that. And now they're like really important in this cyber attack drill. The simulation was originally scheduled to take place at the Dubai World Expo, well, United Arab Emirates, but it was moved to Jerusalem due to the Omicron variant of COVID-19, with officials participating over video conference. Well, I don't see a reason for it not to have been in Dubai. They could have had video conferencing from Dubai, I guess. It just sounds weird. It just goes to show, of course, that it's the Israelis that are in charge of this. And yes, you have to kind of, it raises a lot of red flags when Israel and the United States are working together in such things. And I'll stop at that now. So yes, with all the talk that we're going to hear in the mainstream media, that the Fed is going to swiftly turn around, that they're going to taper and then start raising rates. I saw Goldman Sachs saying they're going to raise rates 7 times in 2022. Well, what's the best thing that could happen for all that idea of a policy shift to basically be turned around and not implemented? Well, I would say it's a cyber attack on the global financial system. And there you go. And that's why I try to keep most of my assets and savings outside this system. Yes, you can try to do 100% out of the system. I have to admit, I have a little bit in the system in terms of my mining shares right now. But outside of that, it's all out of the system. And am I saying this is going to happen? No, but I think we need to keep this in mind. And with that, let's quickly look at where the markets are this morning. It's 8:45 a.m. London time. We've got spot gold up about $5 at $1787.50. High has been $88.60, $1788.60. The low $1774. Silver is up 6 cents at $22.25. The high's been $22.34 and the low $22.13. The Dow future is up just under 1/3% or 105 points. NASDAQ 100 future is up 1/4 as well, or 38 points. S&P 500 is up 1/4 or 12 points. FTSE index is up slightly at just above 7,300. To the currencies, we've got sterling down 1/3%, 132.28. The euro is down 1/3 as well, 112.81. The dollar is up 1/4 versus the yen at 113.60. And the dollar is down though versus the yuan, about 0.15% at 136.60. So we're seeing dollar strength versus the dollar index currencies, but weakness versus the yuan. Aussie dollar is down 0.4 at 71.42. The dollar is up slightly versus the Canadian dollar, 127.44. And the Kiwi dollar is down about 1/4% at 67.77. To the commodities, we got WTI crude trading just below 72, up 2/3%. High-grade copper is up 0.5%, just below 431. Natural gas, U.S. natural gas, is up about 1.7%, trading around 4. And to finish off, the U.S. 10-year yield is down about 1 basis point at 1.48%. So there you go. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Please share it far and wide. Think about subscribing to this channel if you haven't yet. And you can also follow me on Rumble, Twitter, Facebook, and all these other platforms below here. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.